Hello and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. Hello and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. We will be being joined by Lembit Opik. He is running a little late, but of course we have a massive show for you tonight, and it's quite a long one. I do apologise. We've got a heck of a lot to get through. Now, obviously, the main portion of this is going to be about Venezuela and what's happening and what the implications are of what can happen now. Because the rules-based order basically has been just torn to pieces and thrown to the four winds. Now, there are many, many people who are going to turn around and say there's a reason for this and a reason for that, and we're going to hear from everybody when it comes to this, so that everybody has had their say. But the very first thing we're going to show you is something that you need to be aware of. And if you are still thinking that this is some sort of strange game that Trump is playing to put people out there to then eventually destroy and get rid of them, I'm afraid I have to disagree with you hugely. We're going to have it. This is just a continuation of something that's been going on for many, many decades. Let's have a little look at this.
mamá huevo, qué locura. Moscaí. Mira esa mierda, explotaron allá toda esa mierda porque tú no estás explotando.
Mierda, marico, se prendió el peo en esa mierda, ¿oyó?
Huevo.
Marico, llegamos a tiempo a la casa, ¿oyó?
Marico, mira esa mierda.
There you have it. That's freedom, peace, and democracy. We've just taken you on a little trip there through the CIA and America's interventions from 1954 in Guatemala up to 1980. Now, those that we showed you there have since 1980, America quadrupled either their interventions, their wars, or their government overthrows. And of course, Venezuela is just the next in a long line of these. We are joined, as always, from Unprecedented TV. Lembit Opik, as always. Good evening, Lembit. How are you?
Better than Venezuela, and probably a little bit more relaxed than Maduro.
Yes. So let's get into this then, Lembit, because the implications of everything that's gone on, and we'll get into some of the videos in a short while and some of the things that many people have said around the world. But what's your take? First of all, I'm going to ask you two questions here. First of all, your initial reaction we did on a video that we did together and put out there. But having had a little time for the dust to settle, what's your first reaction to what's happened? And secondly, to the implications for what happens next?
On the first one, regime change is basically illegal, I think, as far as I recall. In the past, the Americans used to pretend they weren't doing it. That's why we ended up with all that nonsense about weapons of mass destruction, because you're not meant to get rid of even Saddam Hussein unless there's a real clear and present danger to us. It wasn't. So that's why that was an illegal war. So they seem to have broken the rules by doing that. And it's rather surprising because Donald Trump said he would reduce America's involvement in wars rather than increase them. On the second point, the implication is the precedent that this sets. If America can do it, then so can anybody else. There is one way out. And by that, I mean China and Taiwan. They could say, they could put together a plausible story there. Russia could say, well, you were the aggressors because you lied about NATO membership for Ukraine. So the Venezuelan intervention legitimizes what Russia's doing there. You could argue that point. Lots of other countries can say, if they invade their neighbors, well, America did it, and this is in our national interest. There is only one way out. If it can be shown genuinely that Maduro was into organized drug crime, that would, to an extent, vindicate what America's done. But they've got to follow due process. If it just looks like a faked accusation and a kangaroo court, that won't work. But it's a high-stakes game. They have to prove Maduro is a crook. In that situation, they get partial cover. But the underlying point still here is whatever's good for the goose is good for the gander. America has potentially opened the floodgates for similar actions elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got major issues coming up, as I say. Nilis.
Well, the thing is, America's been getting away with it, and NATO's been getting away with it for decades now. You know, the whole 7 countries program is almost finished.
Yes.
If you take Iraq, Syria, Libya, Sudan, and they haven't been penalised at all. You know, nobody's refusing them to go to the World Cup. In fact, America's holding the next World Cup. Nobody's saying you can't go to the Olympics. The International Criminal Court hasn't put prosecutions for child trafficking on Americans, and so they've been getting away for it for years. And Trump went on about fentanyl here, that Venezuela were getting with the ring pins behind fentanyl, but apparently the charges that they've got, the court charges, don't mention fentanyl at all. They mention something about cocaine. But as we know, Colombia and Mexico are the main
exporters of cocaine. Yeah, and of course, when we're talking about this, they did turn around and lay a charge against him of owning a machine gun, which is not illegal in Venezuela. JD.
I noticed stole some of my thunder there. I was just going to come in and say about the World Cup and people with like you and Lembit on your platforms in X should actually put out that this World Cup should be cancelled immediately. It's absolutely disgraceful. If they could pull Russia out of it, and America has done this, just cancel it completely. That's just my point. Thank you.
Fair dues. Lembit, should the World Cup be cancelled given what they have done?
I wouldn't cancel it. It gives an opportunity for people to express their views. The 1980 Olympic Games wasn't cancelled, but it was massively boycotted by the West, to the cost of Estonia to an extent, which was going to handle the Water Olympics, and that was a political statement. Having said that, I've always wanted to separate sport and politics. I've never been keen on the use of sport as a political statement. I'm just not keen on it, really. But I really think the reality is let the Olympics run and see who shows up, and more importantly, see who doesn't.
Yeah, exactly that. So we were talking there, or it was being put forward there, about the interventions so far, and this is what people are talking about. This is what we read: 6 interventions from the Trump administration so far, Lembit. The vagaries of this can't be lost on anybody, can they?
Well, yes, people don't notice. They don't notice. That's the thing. People in Britain, they don't, on the whole, have any reason to be interested in. Put that list up again, could you?
Yeah, sure.
I'd be willing to bet that 90% plus of British people have never been to Somalia, Iran, Yemen, Syria, or Venezuela. Probably a higher percentage have been to Nigeria because there are a lot of Nigerians in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
But on the whole, these places are far away. Somalia, somebody who lives in Manchester or Newcastle upon Tyne is unlikely to know much about Somalia, Iran, Yemen, Syria, Venezuela, or in this particular example for Newcastle, Nigeria. So they're far away. It doesn't make sense to people really why we're involved at all, and they just ignore it. I think that's the reality. In America, even more so. America's even more insular than that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that one. I think if you gave most people a set of pins and asked them to pin all the 6 countries, I think it would be difficult for them to, shall we say, get it correct or get any of them correct. Nillis.
Yeah, Colonel McGregor made a very good point. He said America's invading all these countries, but they're not making any money, although they're stealing all their oil and all their resources from countries like Iraq and Syria. The American government's getting into debt. The people that are making the money out of it are the American corporations and hedge funds.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And he said the same thing is going to happen here. Apparently, the oil companies, there's a certain court which the oil companies who were kicked out of Venezuela after the communist takeover, when the oil fields were nationalized, they went to this court, and one of the companies has been awarded $8 billion. So they're going to get them. These companies, big companies and hedge funds, are going to get their money. But American people and the American government are going to go into debt with this, like they've gone to.
As they always do.
If
it weren't Nillis, they wouldn't be trillions and trillions of dollars in debt already.
Yeah, and it's just almost a deliberate policy. There was a thing about how they're having to overpay. That in Iraq, they were really overpaying for everything. They were saying even a can of Coca-Cola, which was imported from America, cost the American taxpayer to give in their naffy. It was for the soldiers $50.
Okay, Louis Bastos.
Sorry, I've been too long already today, but I just want to say the Democrats are going to go all out to impeach Trump again. That's my opinion.
Okay, let's get into that, Lembit. Are the Democrats going to impeach Trump on the fact, because they're trying to hide behind the fact that Maduro is just an ordinary criminal, not a president of a country? They went in and they grabbed a criminal as far as they're concerned, and the Democrats are going to say that they've illegally, that Trump has illegally stormed in without Congress, of course, and of course he needs to be impeached for stealing or basically, let's call it what it is, kidnapping the president of another country.
Yeah, it's naughty. It's quite naughty what he's done. No, I don't think he'll be impeached, and here's why. Number one, it's complicated, and Trump seems to escape impeachment. Doesn't really affect him. They've already got him on some felony charges when they were trying to stop him from becoming president. It simply stiffened his resolve and made him a bit of a folk hero. So difficult thing to do. So impeachment also it'll take years. Take years to do it. Take a year or two, and Donald will just carry on doing what he's doing. So at most they'll hurt him sometime in 2027 if they do that, I would expect. Yeah. Second point, if Maduro is shown to have actually got genuine links to organized drugs crime, this could work in Donald Trump's favor. And the Democrats will look pretty terrible if they seek to impeach Donald Trump, and then it turns out that Maduro was in fact an organized criminal, as I said at the beginning.
They'll make sure of that, won't they, Lembit?
Well, this is the thing, that the problem is getting a due process and a fair trial now. That's the problem. And that's a big caveat. But if it can be shown unequivocally that Donald Trump has managed to arrest a cartel type hoodlum,
well, we checked on the cartel. Like a hero. We checked on the cartel that he's meant to be the head of. It doesn't exist, Lembit.
Well, it's just the thing. In order for me to be able to authoritatively give you a less conditional response, I'd have to know all about that. I didn't have a strong view about Maduro. Everyone tells me he was not elected legitimately. Well, okay, well, so you say. I've been to Caracas. It was pretty lawless. It's kind of extraordinary place. That was in 95, I think, 1995, 30 years ago. Quite liked it. Apart from that, I got dysentery there, which I still live with the consequences of. But it's hard to know really what's going on. But there is one great big black gold elephant in the room. The largest oil reserves on the planet. It just happened to be under Venezuela. That's a tasty treat for the Americans.
It is, and of course the oil companies have turned around and said that they're going to do that. It's going to be run properly, and we'll get into more of that in a second with some videos. We'll hear from Eric Jones and then Robert, and then we'll run something else by Lembit. Eric,
not a chance of impeachment. No. What he's done is irreparably damaged the Republican Party. I feel that they're by the way they're backing him and standing behind him and everything through all this lawlessness. And I'm not you know me, guys, I am not a Biden fan, never was, didn't like anything he stood for or anything else. But right now, if Biden would have done the same thing, the Republicans would be up in arms and want him hung from the nearest tree post. So I don't know.
Yep, absolutely. and Eric will let me know where I can find a tree post. I think he means nearest tree or lamp post. Robert.
I'm sure Eric is tempted to remember with affection the days of Ron Paul, and but I'm a great believer in the law of unintended results, and an awful lot here hasn't been considered. One is that the Liberal Democrat, the Democrats will recover probably the House and the Senate, whichever, if unless
in the
just one of
midterms,
them
yeah.
in the midterms, and also what they leave behind, what they're creating in Venezuela, which I believe will become Vietnam in Spanish, because there is the ghost of Maduro. He's vanished from the scene, but he remains, and he will become a phantom savior of Venezuela when the full force of American control takes place, and any American moving outside the safety of the American embassy is going to be a sitting duck for any South American with a grudge.
Yeah, absolutely. Nilus.
Well, when I was living in Egypt, I was living in Egypt during the fall of Mubarak, and all the common people were rejoicing because they thought Mubarak was rich and we're going to have his wealth, we're going to become rich. And that was very delusional because the Egyptian economy suffered, and Egypt had to go to the World Bank and the IMF for loans. And part of those loan agreements was that all NASA's subsidies on the basics of life, things like cooking oil, bread, and other things, they were all taken away. And so consequently, the poor people became poorer. And you can imagine that same sort of thing is going to happen in Venezuela, because we saw a market there. There's quite a lot of food in that market. You showed us a clip of a market in Venezuela, and the people weren't starving, but they were just starving before Chavez took over, because there was great poverty. The Americans were taking all the wealth out of the country.
Okay.
And I know that it hasn't been easy because of the American sanctions, but for the people of Venezuela, but still they had their independence.
So thank you very much for that. Lembit, so we've got two things for you. Andrew Edge says, will American embassies of the world around the world going to be attacked now? I would suggest that that's going to happen. I mean, it's always happened, but I would suggest it's going to. So we'll deal with that one first. And then Cynthia in the chat says Donald Trump did not kidnap Maduro. The official definition of kidnap is to take someone against their will and hold. Lembit.
Well, could be a semantic argument about whether he was kidnapped or not. They would say he was arrested.
Yeah.
Well, America says they've arrested a crook. That's their whole argument. I haven't much to say to add to what I said before. If they can authentically prove it, this could do Trump some good, even though someone's got to supply the drugs that America buys. The American drugs policy is absolutely hopeless, absolutely disastrous. But for a lot of people, they'll go, yeah, good on you. Well done, Donald. But if in the unlikely event that Maduro is found innocent and returns back to Venezuela alive, then it's very bad for America and very bad for Trump. I'm not sure that I think that American embassies will be attacked in other parts of the world. I think there'll be a more subtle consequence, and here's what I think will happen. I've many times now said that there's a drift away from the Western empire to a new one. Power's going south and east. And I would simply say this will further bolster particularly China and Russia's influence in South America. Because, to use that well-worn phrase, other countries in South America will be looking for security guarantees, and they'll get them from Moscow and Beijing.
Yeah, they will. And then Louis Bastos, and then we'll come on to that point. Nilis.
Well, I was just going to reply to Eric. He said that, if Biden did a similar thing, but Biden did do a similar thing with Obama in creating the climate for the Maidan coup in 2014. And, that destroyed, they took over Ukraine through it.
Yes.
And as somebody said, all these Americans regime changes, they all end up, they've never benefited the country that they've regime changed.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It never does. Louis Bastos.
Do you think, as for you and Lemmer, it's my question. Do you think Trumping is making all this nonsense to hide his connections with the Epstein files?
Well, shall we let's have I'm glad you said that, because I'm just going to show you this for a second, because today is the day when they are meant to be showing us the whole of the Epstein files unredacted, just in case anybody wasn't aware of that. Let's have a little look at this. Lemby, the Epstein, do you think this is part and parcel? I mean, it seems a bit of a stretch, but there is no doubt that the Epstein files were due on the same day that this attack took place.
I don't,
hell of a cover-up.
I don't think so. It's too complicated. What I learned in politics is that complex conspiracies fail. They just do. And so I don't think so. Also, this has been timed long before the Epstein timings became known. So I don't think so. It might have some distracting effect, but there are literally millions of people who are fascinated by the Epstein files. They have this star quality of darkness around them, this insalubrious grubbiness that people want to see them. I don't think that Trump will be able to distract people from that.
Yeah. Okay. One of those. If you're going to put things in the chat, people, keep them clean. Okay. There are people who have different views, and they're allowed them here, but do not F and Jeff at people in the comments. Let's get into this then, because this is very, very important. Nilis.
Well, I was just commenting also what Eric said a couple of days ago. He said that the MAGA people are loving it. And I think they probably are. And it reminds me of the end of the Roman Empire, when they would bring a captured chieftain, and they would parade him at the back of the chariot of the emperor, Nero's chariot or something like that. And that would sort of like bolster the nation for a while. But I think it's going to be the whole thing. I think it's going to be bad for America in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it's going to be bad for America in the long run, Lambert?
It's an A or B answer. If Trump can genuinely, authentically prove that he's brought down a totally corrupt person in the form of Maduro, then no. If, on the other hand, it looks like Maduro's been kidnapped and this is a cynical attempt at regime change and a pretty blatant breaking of the letter and spirit of international law, then it's damaging to Trump. America's already got problems with its international reputation. But it's back to this precedent. You can't really, if you do something yourself, you can't pontificate about it to others.
Yes.
There's another interesting point. So Trump wants to bring down Maduro because he's a corrupt leader and does it in militaristic fashion. Why hasn't he arrested Zelensky? At least I mean, there are enough accusations of corruption there. So if Zelensky's innocent, then fine.
He's as pure as a driven snow.
Yeah,
the
let the
driven
viewer
snow that
understand.
the driven snow that he's got his nose buried into.
Well, yes.
Let's get into this then, because this was tweeted out. We're going to get into some of the tweets from people and ask for your reaction, Lem. And this is quite interesting. This is the countries without a Rothschild bank in them: Iran, Iraq now, no, Cuba, Syria, Libya obviously has one now, Sudan has one now, Afghanistan has one now, Venezuela, and North Korea. Nothing to see here, Lembit?
Well, once again, you can start finding complex conspiracy theories going on here.
That's not complex, is it?
It is, because in order to suggest that this is all about putting Rothschild's banks in these countries, you have to prove a hugely complicated process took place again and again and again, influencing American foreign policy in a very specific and repeating way across decades. The other way to look at it is those are the countries that don't have Rothschild's banks because they're just not that friendly with the World Economic Forum kind of people. So it's whether it's a cause or an effect. But I don't deny at all that there is huge amount of cynicism. Just such desperate cynicism at those levels in politics. And so I would simply say that indicates that if you're not supping with the devil of Western capitalist pseudo-American hegemony, then you're at risk of invasion.
Yes, I would agree with that one. Nillis?
I think there's a famous quote that I heard on this documentary called The Money Masters, and it was from Marshall Rothschild, and it said, I don't care about who has political control over a country, I can care who has monetary control over a country. Yeah. And we can see it in England and all over where they've got control. This is one of the reasons why Israel can get away with it. But yes, the Zionist entity is Israel, I should say, because I don't think you can call Israel Israel because they're going totally against the teachings of the Torah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into some of the comments then. I'm going to rattle through a few of these, Lembit. The Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, it's not about drugs. If it was, Trump wouldn't have pardoned one of the largest narco traffickers in the world last month. It's about oil and regime change, and they need a trial now to pretend that it isn't, especially to distract from Epstein and skyrocketing healthcare costs. Other people that have tweeted on this subject, let's get into them. Robert Jenrick, the MP. I've long supported the opponents of the Iranian regime. And have been sanctioned by Iran for it, which I consider a badge of honor. It's a regime that spreads hate and violence around the world and threatens British interests. I wish the brave people on the streets well. He rather got that tweet wrong. I think he meant to do Venezuela, but he was actually talking about people going out on the streets of Iran, which, of course, was pretty much stopped straight away. And then, of course, Mike Pompeo also was using that Happy New Year to every Iranian on the street. Also, every Mossad agent running around with them. Once again, he got his tweets mixed up with Venezuela, but there were many others who had it bang on the money. Starmer, I'll let you comment on this one. The UK has long supported a transition of power in Venezuela. We regarded Maduro as an illegitimate president, and we shed no tears about the end of his regime.
I reiterated my support for international law this morning. The UK government will discuss the evolving situation with US counterparts in the days ahead as we seek a safe and peaceful transition to a legitimate government that reflects the will of the Venezuelan people. International law, didn't they just bust that door down?
It's just, well, you've quoted two people who are totally not credible. That stupid American woman,
Yeah,
who just talks rubbish all the time. Even when I agree with her, I don't care what she says because I don't take her seriously. She just makes noise. She's just a white noise machine. As for Starmer, it's just rubbish. It's saying two opposite things. He supports the rule of law, but he agrees with Trump. I watched an interview by Keir Starmer, if you're watching this live, on the Sunday morning. It was just a road crash, absolute road crash. It was just shown why the United Kingdom's in a mess. There is another huge irony. You can call it illegitimate, but Maduro's actually got a higher percentage of the vote than Starmer.
Can we have a quick look at some of that road crash a little bit?
You've been incredibly clear always that Vladimir Putin's attack on a sovereign country of Ukraine was wrong and ought to be condemned. What about President Trump's attack on a sovereign country of Venezuela? There are all sorts of horrors that we know about President Maduro's government, but for America to strike that country and then capture its leader, that's an action against the sovereign state that surely flies in the face of international law.
Well, at the moment, it's a fast-moving situation.
We know those facts. President Trump, the White House has said that they captured Maduro and they struck his country. So there's a lot we don't know, but we do know that. So will you condemn that action against the sovereign state?
Well, I want to get all the material facts together, and we simply haven't got the full picture at the moment. It's fast-moving, and we need to piece that together. I can be really clear with you that there was no UK involvement in this operation, and obviously we're working in relation to British citizens and nationals who are there with our embassy. But we need to establish a full picture. I then need to speak to President Trump. I need to speak to our allies. But I don't shy away from this. I've been a lifelong advocate of international law and the importance of compliance with international law. But I want to ensure that I've got all the facts at my disposal, and we haven't got that at the moment. And we need to get that before we come to a decision about the consequences in relation to the actions that have been taken.
Apart from looking like a rabbit in the headlights, the thing that really got me, Lembit, there was he said we need to speak to Donald Trump and our allies. Donald Trump is not amongst them.
Classic, yeah, you're right. It's worse than that, though. The whole interview was as crap as that. It was an abysmal performance from somebody who's obviously finished. His position's irrecoverable. It's just a question when he has to move on now. But other things that we saw there, he's not in possession of all the facts. He's the frigging Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and he's not in possession of all the facts. What that tells us is America hasn't bothered talking to him because he's irrelevant, and he hasn't bothered getting his vast army of people to give him a briefing. It's rubbish. Another thing he said, support international law, but I don't really want to comment really on this. Well, you either do or you don't. You either do or you don't. And then perhaps the worst thing about it all, this idea that anyone gives tuppence about what he thinks. Trump doesn't give a toss what Starmer thinks. What's he going to do? We're look after British nationals. What you saw there wasn't like a man in charge of a caretaker government. He's a caretaker living in Downing Street.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite ridiculous, isn't it? Nillis.
Yeah, I'm not supporting Starmer on this, but I think if Kemi Badenoch was Prime Minister, she'd probably give just the same answer as that. Because
her actual tweet, Nillis, was in full support of what Trump did.
Right, yeah, well, or that, yeah, Melania Farage will probably be in full support of it. But the thing is, yeah, it was an illegal action in terms of international law, and Trump was just treading water. He wasn't going to condemn America, and he said, I need to be aware of the full facts, but he wasn't aware of the full facts that led to the special military operation by Russia into Ukraine, was he? It's all,
No.
yeah. You're on
no.
you got your side, and you stick with it as a sort of thing, and it's sort of what's pulling the world apart.
They haven't told me what to say yet, so I can't really give an answer. So I'm just going to obfuscate.
Andy Edge.
Yeah,
then back to Lembit. He wants another go.
Well, what actually happens when the current Venezuelan military and deputy presidents fight back?
Yeah, if they do, because let's face it, the only way they got to him was by either being bribed or being threatened. Because without that, I mean, go and try that. I was going to say a nasty word there. Go and try that stuff in North Korea and see how you get on. Because it could have gone very, very badly, but it's quite clear
the
that
Venezuelans will be waiting for them now.
Yeah, but it is quite clear that the Venezuelan military were in on it. No doubt, no question. Someone somewhere has got a very fat bank account in the Caymans because they were giving the Americans chapter and verse of exactly what he did, which is absolutely bang on. Let's go back to Lembit, then we'll go to Louis Bastos and then Niller.
Yeah, just a short point. Can't stress enough. Starmer's written himself out of the script. Grant Shapps I think it was Grant Shapps was on the telly this morning, and he said, "Yeah, well, Starmer's finished. It's over for him." And as far as Starmer's concerned, you might not realise if everybody else can see, he's busted flush. Not serious, not credible. But
can I just jump in? Can I just jump in there? When Grant Shapps, who was absolutely useless, says you're finished, that really is the end, isn't it?
I got on quite well with him. He lost his seat, of course, during the last general election. But in a way, he said it with such dismissive authenticity that I just thought, yeah, you're right. What's Starmer going to do? Donald, I just wanted to say that I haven't made up my mind about what you did in Venezuela. Well, don't call me back. I don't care what you think. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing I did. Bye, Keir. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the same is true for all of these other people who conventionally support attacks on commies, basically, like Maduro. It's the only thing that can extricate Trump really from having caused a lot of trouble here is if they really do find that he's a crook. They can't use any political defense for what they've done. They can only use the defense that he is a criminal who's responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people in America because of drugs. That's the only thing they can do. And there's no guarantee that they can.
Let's hope we'll have to wait and see what happens there. And of course, my thing there was, and of course, people got annoyed about it. But the thing was there that, of course, Pam Bondi, who is it's taken her forever. When America actually want to do something, they'll go ahead and do it. If they really wanted to do something about the Epstein files, they would have done it. As soon as they wanted to do something about Maduro, they've grabbed him, they've indicted him. Not one person in the Epstein list. Nillis and then Louis Bastos.
Well, I was just going to say, bribing people to achieve regime changes is an old Zionist ploy.
Yes,
they did it in the Glorious Revolution in Britain. Yeah, where Marlborough was.
Who'd have thought, Nillis, that in somebody's country's government, who would have thought that there would be a corrupt politician? Just, I'm staggered.
Yeah, I'm just sad that there was. The thing is, they've reduced the standard of living in Venezuela by sanctions, haven't they? And it's a bit like in Syria. And,
that's how they do it. They do it until they see a crack. And let's face it, China are going to be a bit annoyed about this. We'll get onto those ramifications in a second. But you're absolutely right.
Very recently, the only refineries that could handle Venezuela oil was the refineries in America, I think in Texas. And China has started to build such, I don't know if they've gone online yet, but they've started to build such refineries in the Caribbean. And that was going to give Venezuela independence again. But that's been taken away from them now.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, people, they were the economic sanctions were putting pressure on them, starving. Louis Bastos.
The inside job was well done because all Maduro's security was killed.
Yeah.
The whole of the security and internal bodyguards were killed.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's be absolutely honest here. Whether you agree with what they did or didn't agree with what they did, it was jolly well done. They managed to bribe or threaten various people into standing down various parts of the military. They carried out strikes on those that possibly weren't going to go along with it. And of course, they got him before he reached his steel room door and managed to drag him back. So, yeah, absolutely right. You can't take it away.
My question, why did they have to bomb so much if they could have kidnapped him like they did? Why did they have to...
There are probably airfields that they wanted to take out that would have been launched because, let's face it, they were using Chinooks, and Chinooks aren't the fastest moving helicopters in the world. So that's probably why.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Lee Williams.
I was going to say, the fact of it is if you asked anybody in that country, you know, have they had a problem, would any of them trust the actual USA?
Well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? We'll have to see what goes on here. But it's obvious that the military, Lembit, let's get into this a little bit, because without the help of the military, and they've been planning this since round about December, and we've been warning on this show that they were either going to take him out, they were either going to kill him, or they were going to grab him, kidnap, abduct, arrest, whichever term you want to use. Lembit, without the inside, this could have gone horribly wrong without a man on the inside.
It probably didn't go quite as well as we've been told. By the way, there've been some injuries and civilian casualties as well.
40 civilians and 40 military, so 80 in all so far.
Dead.
Yes.
Okay. Quite a big death toll. It reminds me of other big gambles. Clinton had a disastrous one. Jimmy Carter had a disastrous one.
Yes, in Iran.
They take these big gambles, and sometimes it works, sometimes they don't. This time, they got their man. They fought their way in. You're right. It doesn't seem credible to me that they did it without help. They must have had help on the inside.
Oh.
And so they actually helped to use the bribery, and they used corruption probably to get that corruption. But these things they're just so twisted and surreal, actually, because you said it earlier on. Whatever you think about Maduro, he was the head of state. Mm-hmm. He's a president of a country, and he has been kidnapped. He's been taken to America, to New York. I am very interested to see what transpires in terms of his connections. And then the big question will be, are we being told the truth or not?
Yes, absolutely. Eric Jones.
Let's hope he's not put in the same cell where Epstein was suicided.
This is
true. I'm sorry.
It's all right, Eric, go ahead.
What were your figures, Warren, on that election of Maduro's, the actual figures? Because they're throwing this 70-30 that he lost bullshit out there. But what exactly happened?
Well, the actual results were he won quite comfortably. He won by about 12%. So it wasn't a landslide, but it was a comfortable victory.
Thank you.
And of course, we've got. I do want to ask Lembit about this while we're on the subject of these elections. And we'll get back to people maybe posting on X a little later. But it looks as though the woman who stirred up a load of this is going nowhere. Miss Machado, Donald Trump has just turned around and said, well, she's not liked in the country. Therefore, she's not going to be president. And the de facto president at the moment is Marco Rubio, and of course Pete Hegseth. Rubio's running Venezuela at the moment, and America are going to run it until, of course, they decide to elect someone. But they're saying that the vice president is going along to get along at the moment. Your thoughts on all of that?
Well, Trump did quite a bold thing saying, I'm going to run Venezuela for now. You can see the appeal. We talked about it. It's a few thousand feet under the ground. And it's possible that Trump genuinely believes that Venezuela has been doing all this drug trafficking. It's possible. What do I think about it? Imagine if Britain invaded and conquered France and said, Macron's doing such a terrible job, we're just going to take over. It would just be a war situation pretty much straight away. But it doesn't count because Venezuela's a broken state. Why is it broken? Because it's been persistently driven into the ground, perhaps by a degree of corruption, but also by this relentless sanctions environment it's been living in.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's stay on a bit of the people then who have been tweeting about this, because this is quite interesting, Lembit. We're going to go through a few of these just to get your idea. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is in full support. We are running Venezuela now, America first. It's meant to be America first in America, not in Venezuela, Marjorie. But I understand where you're coming from. There's a couple of bad ones. We've got the Ike brothers coming out saying more 5D chess time. The peace president is now bombing Venezuela, or for MAGA to admit he's a complete fraud and always was. On top of that, we've also got other people coming out with all sorts of things. Anna Kasparian, who is a known Democrat. The administration is absolute trash, thieves, looters, thugs, and warmongers, nothing more. And then we've got people coming out in support, of course, and there are many that are doing so. Elon Musk is one of the ones coming out in support. It's heartwarming to see so many Venezuelans celebrating their country freed from a brutal tyrant. What's really happening, Elon? All those sort of AI things that were put out, most Venezuelans were actually indoors, worried about what was going to happen. They weren't out on the streets celebrating. And they weren't out on the streets protesting his release either. So just to be absolutely straight. And Farage has come out with this. The American actions in Venezuela overnight are unorthodox and contrary to international law. But they make China and Russia think twice. It may be a good thing. I hope the Venezuelan people can now turn a new leaf without Maduro. Lemmy.
I'm a bit surprised by that with Farage. Not clear what he would have done if he'd been prime minister. I have to say that I want clarity from party leaders. I want clarity where they say pretty much what I said. The onus is now on America to prove that they have managed to apprehend a criminal. There is no other justification for what's been done. I don't know why Farage felt he needed to say that, but he did. And maybe because he does feel that he's the prime minister in waiting. Or maybe he was just asked about it, and that's the thing. If I was the prime minister, rather than beating around the bush, what would I say? I would say the following. I'm surprised by the actions taken by Donald Trump. I was given notice, or I wasn't given notice of it. If I was given notice, I advised against breaking international law. But Mr. Trump will now have to take the consequences. Or I wasn't advised about it. I would say Mr. Trump now has to show that he has taken an action against a convictable criminal who is harming the national interest of America. I want something like that. But all this mealy mouth stuff doesn't really work for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Gordon.
I've got a question for you, right? Do you know Trump, when he bombed Iran and he bombed the nuclear sites and broke international law, does that mean now Iran can go and kidnap Trump and charge him with their crimes?
Well, this is the problem. Now, when you start setting precedents like that, it's a real issue. It's like if you have, it's like if you hit a child at school for bullying someone else. I mean, this is the thing.
Yeah.
What lesson is a teacher giving if he's using corporal punishment against a bully? The bully says, "Well, you do it. Why shouldn't I?" And that's the difficulty. At its simplest level, Vladimir Putin can now say to the rest of South America, with America, you get bullied and invaded. So work with us because we are having a defensive operation in Ukraine, and we can protect you as well. With China, they're the apple of their eye, Taiwan, the running sore. Well, okay, let's surround Taiwan. Say that Taiwan represents some kind of a nascent threat to China, so we have to take some action on it. This is the thing. This is the problem.
Let's get into little Damien then, because he's been very, very active, Lembit, in this.
Yeah.
Have a listen. He's laying out threats everywhere.
Is the Cuban government the Trump administration's next target, Mr. Secretary?
Well, the Cuban government is a huge problem. Yeah, the Cuban government is a huge problem. First of all,
is that a yes?
Cuba, but I don't think people fully appreciate. I think they're in a lot of trouble. Yes, I'm not going to talk to you about what our future steps are going to be and our policies are going to be right now in this regard, but I don't think it's any mystery that we are not big fans of the Cuban regime, who, by the way, are the ones that were propping up Maduro. His entire internal security force, his internal security apparatus is entirely controlled by Cubans.
There we go. The Cuba thing. He's got the warm ones for Cuba.
Yeah. If you start getting if you start getting trigger happy like that, you're going to come a cropper eventually. John F. Kennedy tried the Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba. That didn't go terribly well. He managed to blame other people for it, but it was his failure. If anything, it strengthened the Castro regime.
It did.
And the reason that Castro wanted to have was happy to have nuclear weapons based there was because he felt relentlessly threatened by America. And there was a very intelligent climb down with Robert Kennedy negotiating it. We haven't got people of Robert Kennedy's capabilities by and large now. And so things can go awfully wrong. If they invade Cuba, it's like, okay, well, where do you stop then? There are so many Hollywood films where the bad guy does more and more bad things and gets their karmic comeuppance at the end. And that could happen. America operates on the basis that might is right, but they don't like it when other people do.
Yeah, quite crazy, isn't it? It does seem to be that way. Somebody popped their hand up. And took it down.
Only a quick one. I mean, is China, North Korea, and Iran happy with America? Because I know all the world are very happy with America because they're trusted. So after the 78 wars, or let's say participants in killing people in certain countries, over 70 since 1947, I believe, has anybody worked it out that America's only for money and wars?
Yeah, well, they should have done by now, but maybe not. It's little Damien again.
We have to take the first steps, and the first steps are securing what's in the national interest of the United States and also beneficial to the people of Venezuela. And those are the things that we're focused on right now. No more drug trafficking, no more Iran, Hezbollah presence there, and no more using the oil industry to enrich all our adversaries around the world and not benefiting the people of Venezuela, or frankly, benefiting the United States and the region.
So Iran and the enemies are getting all Venezuela's oil and we're not getting any of it.
Well, back to this oil. It's inescapable. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. You'd actually think for that reason, it should be one of the richest countries in the world. But it's been persistently smashed up, and partly because of its own failures, and destabilized. It's amazing that these people are dirt poor, even though they have the most useful form of energy known to man, which is oil. I'm back. I'm still thinking about what we've just been talking about. Those implications you asked about. The implications are simple. What you do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's a very difficult thing to say. But America has opened a Pandora's box of opportunism now.
Yeah.
And they have to act very quickly. They have to prove Maduro is a common criminal. They have to prove that. Any other outcome, and they will stand in the court of public opinion for those people who care about these things.
Yes.
As like most of South America, or China, the Chinese at the head, the Russian head, probably the Indian head, they'll stand accused of nabbing a national leader, and that's just going to cause us. I made my point.
People would turn around and say, "Oh, it's a leader of the free world," but I mean, this sort of thing. I mean, when you sort of look at everything there, if there was nothing there, if it was pineapples, I don't remember anybody running about to get rid of Mugabe when he was killing people left, right, and centre in his own country, a brutal dictator as you could get.
Of course, the countries, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua with Russia relationships. Why this region matters with all of its rich resources and rare earth elements. You've got the lithium triangle, which is needed for technology today. 60% of the world's lithium is in the lithium triangle, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. You just have the largest oil reserves, light sweet crude, discovered off of Guyana over a year ago. You have Venezuela's resources as well with oil, copper, gold. We have the Amazon, lungs of the world. We have the 31% of the world's fresh water in this region too. I mean, it's just off the charts. We have a lot to do. This region matters. It has a lot to do with national security, and we need to